Hello and welcome to Monday Musings. I'm Max, we got Marcus to the side, and we're joined by a very special guest today. We have Gabrio. Say hello, Gabrio.
Hello, Gabrio.
He's been well trained.
It's about what we expected to start the stream, to be perfectly honest. But yes, really exciting for all you naval buffs, kind of continues the naval theme. So, Gabrio, obviously, you're pretty active in the community, but for those that may not know, for some of the regulars on our channel who might not be into the naval side, can you let us know, obviously, who you are, what you've worked on with Warlord, and what were you doing before Warlord?
Yes, absolutely. So, who I am? Well, I'm Gabrio Tolentino. I've been working in the industry of war games for more than 20 years now. I joined back in the distant past Games Workshop in 1997. Stayed there till 2010. When I left, I did a couple of solo projects. And then in 2013, I joined Warlord Games. So yeah, I've been around the industry in and out of it for what is it? 20
basically as long
4
as
years.
Yeah, it's basically as long as we've been alive, minus 2, Gabriel.
Thank you. That doesn't make me feel at all old.
I love springing that on him.
Yeah. So, and you also asked me how long have I been into the naval side of things? Well, I think for a long time it's been a growing kind of passion of mine. I think it's when I was back a little tiddler in I was 14. I went to a place called Worthing in the south of England for a study holiday with an organization that from Italy, which is where I'm from. You could go for about 3 weeks on your own with this organized kind of study holiday, you want to call it, in the summer. Mm-hmm. And during this summer, they were really irresponsible people. It was a different time. We were tough back then. So we basically one day we just decided, well, you know what? It was a Sunday, and I said, let's just go the like 4 or 5 of us. Let's go to Portsmouth on the train, which is not far, but also not quite near. So we took off and just went to Portsmouth. And went to visit the naval mecca that is the fantastic HMS Victory.
Yeah.
I brought back a little bit of a souvenir, or a bit of oak from it. I remember
nice.
Very clearly, which is somewhere in Italy, God knows where, but it's amongst my things that are back there in Italy. And I think maybe it's since then. I think that's when witnessing such a prestigious ship that is one of the few ones that are still that you can just experience as it was several hundred years ago.
Yeah,
that just gave me a little bit of a how do you call chip on the shoulder?
Yeah. like that initial seed of interest in
the seed of interest. I like that. So yeah. And basically that just got developed throughout the years, and I've always been since then. I've always been into naval modeling first, and then wargaming afterwards. When I was in Games Workshop, I was working for the design studio, and this very clever chap called Mark Latham approached me, and he said, "Oh yeah, you like kind of naval things. Why don't you help me write this game called Trafalgar, which is a naval war game, the editor of which was what was at the time Warhammer Historical. There was like a subsection of Games Workshop that published historical supplements. So I got very involved with Mark and helped him playtesting a lot. I rigged a lot of little 1200 scale ships, many ships, and I have my beautiful face is inside the book as one of the few people. I got a playtesting credit. So, and I think, I mean, I my passion is wargaming in general, but just unifying those two of the passion for naval history and the wargaming is always kind of been a bugbear of mine, if you want to call it that. I apologize, the dog is whining, by the way. So yeah, if she barks, I'll try and get her. Rosie, come here. Sorry about this.
That's all right. We're used to it from Max.
Yeah.
Just take the opportunity as well. I think Max can't see the chat at the moment in an interesting.
Yeah, I
role
can't see
reversal.
anything.
So thank you saying hello to everyone in the chat. I've got plenty of regulars, guys like Comradeson, Stig, Spindleshanks. Welcome to all of you folks. And I'm seeing a few new people in the chat as well. So welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. And obviously we're going through, we've got some sort of pre-written questions for Gabrio, but if you've got questions for Gabrio as well, chuck them in the chat. Can't promise we'll have time to answer them all, but we'll try and pass them on.
I reckon we'll have plenty of time. We've not actually got that many pre-arranged questions. I think this is going to devolve into a semi-on-topic chat pretty fast, as it tends to do on this channel. But that's fine. We can work on that. So you basically just asked question 1 and 2 together, Marcus. You kind of blurred them.
What was question 2?
Question 2 was, what's your experience, and is it a lifelong love with naval wargaming?
Oh yes, you did. You did
Yeah.
manage to. But yeah, just to expand on that, and maybe it's one of the future questions. I don't know, but I'm just going to say it anyway. Just to carry on from what I was saying, I remember when I started working for Warlord Game back in 2012, 2013. We went to a pub here in Nottingham called John Borlace
Best pub.
Warren.
Best pub in Notts.
It's our local.
which is a naval hero, by coincidence. And he brought me out for lunch, business lunch, obviously, as you do, to discuss several things. And he just basically told me, you know what, Gabriel, I've always wanted to do motor torpedo boat, an MTB game. Of a slightly larger scale than what people are used to, and I want you to help me. And I say, well, funny you say that. What I would like to do is a Napoleonic era naval game, and so that was back then, and it took several years before we got to realize both those ambitions, if you want. So
I'm curious, when it comes to the time on making those, is that getting it in the Warlord game system? Is that like getting it approved for the money side of things and studio, or is that time getting the models ready and playtesting and actually writing the book? What's the time frame on going from an idea in a pub to a game published in 2019?
Yes, it's usually not it doesn't take as long, I have to say, 400 years ago. But basically, I think the events caught both John, me, Warlord. It's just there was other thing going on at the time, so we just said, oh, wouldn't it be cool if, and then that idea got kind of parked, and then several years later, John said, actually, I think this is, he started his own, he engaged some sculptors, got some models going with it, not involving Warlord at all. It was his own money to start off with. And he just went, he just really felt that there was a gap and he needed to fill it. I just basically, I saw a couple of MTBs coming out. And I just thought, John, I want to be part of this because it looks amazing. So, and that was much later, if you want. So, I think all in all, the development of Cruel Seas took possibly between 6 and 12 months before it actually got published.
That's a surprisingly short amount of time, to be honest. I was expecting a bigger number there, but that's interesting.
Yeah, no, it's. I mean, it was an intense. I think it's probably by the time it got published, it was a good 12 months after we started it.
Mhm.
But that involved like almost religiously 1 or 2 sessions weekly,
Mhm.
testing for hours and hours. John is blessed because he have this most gorgeous gaming room.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you've discussed it.
Yeah,
Ever.
we want to do a walkthrough of it on the
It's-
Twitch at some point. We want to do
it's
a game
just
there,
amazing.
show everyone around, and
Yeah.
make everyone green with envy. There we go.
It's got guns on the walls. It's got cabinets full of toy soldiers, like jam packed of toy soldiers. It's got artwork. It's just amazing. So luckily we meet up at John's place and we just bounce ideas around, try them out. Richard Carlisle was heavily involved at the time as well. Bernard initially was involved. Bernard Lewis, who works in Warlord still now, and basically several people came in and out of this. Obviously, most of the core rules came from John. But it was a collaborative effort which we bounced stuff around and so when after Cruel Seas was published, I just remembered that chat that we had basically in the
Right,
pub.
my turn now.
And well, yeah, and it's not even that I actually discussed it. I think that I felt exactly the same as John, so I just went ahead and started doing it by myself, taking a lot of the really cool mechanics that Cruel Seas introduced, and basically either developing them, adding bits, or taking bits off to simplify certain element, just to fit what my vision was for the Napoleonic naval side of things.
I think that actually kind of segues us quite nicely into question 3, talking about that process of working through the mechanics.
Absolutely.
Obviously, their naval war games are kind of pretty unique, really, compared to a lot of other war games and the challenges they present. Other war games don't have to worry about the wind normally. And did like working out and finding things like the sailing mechanic that you were happy with prove to be an issue? Was that one of the big difficulties, or was that something that you already had in your head to start with?
In regards to the wind, I think the one person I have to be thankful to is actually Rick Priestley and to some extent Mark Latham, because it's an extension of or not an extension, but it's taking the concept that was in Trafalgar back then and just building on it in a certain way. And that followed a comment from Rick where I remember Mark was really struggling on how to with this wind mechanics, and that's when Rick, in his very Rick way, so nothing is ever difficult, and he just go, oh yeah, just the wind. Well, if you were upwind, it was more advantageous to just make that as the priority order of who goes first. And it's like, okay, a little comment which stayed in the back of my head was like, okay, so let's do that. Mark and Trafalgar brought it into one direction, that concept expressed by Rick, and I just went, I'm just going to take it a slightly different direction. And instead of going, all my ships go first, and then all of your ships goes first, and who goes first is determined by the ship that is closer to the origin of the wind. I went, no, possibly taking inspiration from Cruel Seas, which has that who alternating go between ships.
Yeah.
I just went, no, let's just make it so that the wind determines the the priority order, the moving order of every ship. So as soon as the wind hits a ship, that's the ships that move, and that determines the turn order. So it's not random like in Cruel Seas or in Bolt Action. And it's not I move everything, then you move everything, which led to some less than sportsman-like tactics of putting your main fleet was here, and then you had a little ship over there where the ship starts, which was very unsportsmanly. So, so just to go back to answering your question, it was all in the back of my head.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, I didn't struggle, and I have to thank Rick Priestley for it, really, because he's luckily he works for us. So
it does tend to help.
Yeah, we'll have to get him on at some point.
Oh,
absolutely, yeah.
We're working through everyone at the moment in no particular order. Just who'll talk to us. It's a short list, surprisingly.
It's who've we annoyed the least this week. And we deliberately hid from Gabrio all week so we couldn't upset him.
You need to be quite get used of a severe amount of sarcasm. But that's easily done. Yeah, I'll talk to Rick anytime. So that was the win mechanic specifically, but you're right. It is different than a normal traditional, foot soldier kind of approach. But I guess every era and every kind of game has comes with its own challenges.
Yeah.
I personally think that Bolt Action has an amazing system. Possibly one of the best ones that we have that suits that kind of squad level gaming perfectly. And where you want larger armies, the system that is used for Pike and Shot, Hail Caesar, and Black Powder,
the mass battle games.
Yeah, it suits that to a T. It's amazing. It's fantastic. So. Yeah, it's horses for courses, but I think I managed to strike a very good balance. The other thing that I've said on other interviews as well and on other times, I really wanted to bring accessibility to naval wargaming because a lot of naval war games are very they're faithful to physics and the real world, but extremely complex.
And have rule books this thick.
Yeah, tables upon tables, and it's not. I don't dislike that way of playing, but it's a very specific type of very cerebral, if you want, where the actual act of sailing, the actual act of moving. In the models on the tabletop is in itself a very, very difficult to do in real life, and that's represented. So I wanted to simplify all of that, because I love naval, as we've established, and I play lots of computer games. And when you play some computer games, some to greater or lesser degree, they really factor the wind as a flavor, or on some games it's just a distant, kind of. Oh yeah, and there's the wind, kinda, because if you click to go straight against the wind, it's still the ship will still sail against the wind.
Yeah,
and I guess the principle that they have is they value, or they've not value, but they give precedence to the fun element rather than being very strictly realistic.
Yeah, we've had in the past, I think it was Alessio who said the difference between a simulator and a game. So you kind of have to strike that balance of not too open to interpretation, not kind of making it up and going a bit too Hollywood with it, but at the same time, if you do everything by the books, then most games of Bolt Action will take 7 hours and consist of just artillery barrages.
Yeah. No units are destroyed, and someone just kind of says, "We've won" at the end of it.
Yeah, and ultimately, I mean, these are, to a greater or lesser extent, they they want to be in some way, shape, or form reenacting history because they're historical games.
Yeah.
But they are games. I always have had this concept that, and I played a lot of games in my life with a lot of different people in tournaments, when very serious with cravats and bandanas and people like taking it extremely seriously, and very rarely those type of games are fun.
Yeah.
Just do them. You go through them, and in the end, you go and you say, "Oh, I kind of, I kind of don't like this," and that's me personally, and that's why I just thought, and this is what I did, is put more emphasis on the fun element rather than the realism element. Although I have to say, you still can't straight sail against the wind, which you can do in some computer games. So there's still an element of realism that is, but it's a lot less realistic than what some people like to play like. And I mean the overwhelming feedback I usually get from whoever plays Black Seas is it's a lot of fun. Having seen ships going on fire left, right, and center, some of them blowing up. That's just, did it happen a lot of the time? Probably not. We have some examples where it happened, but it wasn't like it didn't happen every single time. It does happen in Black Seas game. Maybe it's the luck of the rolls. I don't know. But at least to me, my ships tend to blow up a lot. So
I heard last time you played, about half the ships ended up beached.
Yes. Let's not talk about that.
I mean, you were talking about realism. So spinning off realism, where does things like Terrors of the Deep come in? Was that something that you pushed for? Was that something that we thought, this is cool, let's add it in? Was it something that you particularly wanted?
Terrors of the Deep, there was a mixture. I can't remember completely very well. I think it must have been Wojciech, one of the sculptors of Warlord Games. And he said, I really want to do a Kraken. Let me do a Kraken. And as a concept, what I was trying to maintain is the sailors of the time, they didn't think it was fantasy. They really believed there were a Kraken. There were Krakens, the sirens. There were, narwhals. They believed all that stuff. They were very.
Narwhals aren't real. Let's not be silly.
Narwhals are definitely a myth. They're too cool to be real. They're too pure as well.
Sea serpents and that kind of things. They you can see them on maps.
Yeah, Hippie Dragons wasn't a joke. It was.
It wasn't. It was. Yeah, and they were very superstitious. So there is a fantastical element to the sea creatures that we made. However, they are sea creatures that were in the myths of the time.
Yeah.
Which, in my head, kind of makes sense that you could just see them, because one could argue that they did exist and they're now extinct.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. Who knows? I mean, nobody can prove or disprove this with any kind of evidence. So
this is why I don't go swimming in the sea, just in case.
Exactly. I mean, if you think about the Loch Ness Monster, is it real? Isn't it real?
I'll try not to think about the Loch Ness Monster.
I'm not gonna argue either way.
No, we have Scottish viewers, and they probably have very strong opinions.
Absolutely, and why not?
Yeah.
So even in the fantastical, it was I thought let's just keep an element in what the historical side of it was, even if like a mythological side of things rather than real. Now, I don't believe in them things. I'm not superstitious at all, because it's really, really bad luck.
We've got a couple of, not many questions at the moment in chat, but there's a couple of quick ones.
Yeah.
Just to break it up a little bit, because obviously only I can see the chat. Which is a lovely reversal from normal. So, Paul King Tiger, Gabrio, will you, and by further extension, Warlord, be at UK Games Expo? And currently they're looking forward to painting up some Jebex.
Xebex, Marcus.
Jebex. It's got an X in it. It's confusing. The X isn't at the end of the word. My tiny English brain kind of melts.
That's right.
Someone else has said it now. When I say it, I can look smart.
Max is calling them Quebecs.
UK Games Expo. As one of my several part-time hobbies, I am an avid board gamer, so I'd like to go there just to see what's new.
Yeah,
it's been a long time.
But I have to say, I'm not. I haven't planned to go there with Warlord up to now. They haven't asked me, but that might change. I don't know.
I know they are asking for people. I think I'm going to that one.
I think I might be.
I definitely volunteered for a couple. I think I'm going to Games Expo, which is going to be interesting. Honestly, biggest part for me, I wanted to go see a show. It's been ages. I just like going around to all the stands, especially if they have bring and buy. I'm a disaster when it comes to a bring and buy sale. I'm like, oh, I don't need that, but it only costs £13. Having it, and I get home and I'm like, why did I buy all this junk?
Yeah, it's. I can't say how many board games I have. I gave away about 30 or 40 several years ago, and I still have some here. Just one of those things, you know.
Yeah. There's plenty of people at work exactly like that.
Yeah. Surprise, surprise! Working for a wargaming company, pretty much everyone's a giant nerd.
Yes. Hey. Who you got on a nerd?
You, because you're far away from me now.
In terms of the Xebecs, they are absolutely beautiful models. They've been sculpted by Mark Keenan, who is a very talented chap who does marvelous stuff.
Yeah.
I've got one here. They're absolutely gorgeous. I haven't had any yet to paint. This I have. Because for my sins, I also usually gift Warlord with sea bases.
Hey,
we love the sea bases.
So these are, and this is one that I did yesterday, and so that's why I have the Xebecs here. But I only have the resin part. Yeah. I don't have any of the metal bits. That's Milliput, if anybody's interested. Nobody cares. But, yeah.
Don't give away the secrets. The sales are going to plummet now.
So that'll be turned by the beautiful Rachel into resin. And they'll be able to be bought at some point. I'm not sure when. And I managed to do some, although they're not completely finished. These are for the galleys, which are somewhere here.
Weirdly, we've got some in our office as well. They were sculpted.
Galleys and I don't.
They were sculpted ages ago, and someone gave us samples. We probably had those in our office for like a year now.
We got those just before lockdown. Yeah. We got them at the old site after we moved to the new office. Yeah, we saw those. Obviously, we weren't allowed to talk about them for basically an entire year. And I think Connor opened up a box today, and they're just in there, and they've just been sat there for a year because obviously we didn't have the metal parts.
Yeah, we've not had them built or anything. We just got the hulls, and they've been there forever. Because when we first saw them, I saw galleys, and I'm like, oh, cool, we're doing the Hail Caesar version. And people were like, no, we're not. No, we're not.
Actually, there is a question about that from Comradson, who asks, when are we getting rules for the ancient Mediterranean and the ancient world?
Yes.
Is that something that you're allowed to talk about? If it is something we're doing, is it something that's crossed your mind?
It definitely has crossed my mind. Let's. I can tell you, it's one of the potentials on the to-do list that I have. Of what to do next. At the moment, I'm battling. I know this is a future question, so I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to finish the compendium for Black Seas. Once that's done, then I'll be moving on to another project potentially.
Yeah.
Something to do. It's not like we already have the name.
Cruel Caesar.
Not cruel Caesar.
Hail Caesar.
Right.
He's out.
He's gone. Gabrio's left. But no, so
It'd be great to have a guest leave of their own volition and not tech issues.
Yeah. But so something that's a potential, it's on the cards because it's something that you've had to think about, which is really cool. It's nice to see.
It's not like I can show you actually. I've got a significant amount of literature on the subject. Now I have to say I am not an expert on that, so I'll have to do a significant amount of research beforehand. It's not. I don't love it in the same way I absolutely love Napoleonic era naval combat. It's just, in my eyes, there's no better things. I mean, everybody loved pirates. I also like pirates, but the level of sophistication and tactics and the overall ambience of the Napoleonic era naval war game is just naval combat in general is just my favorite time of all, really. So
yeah, absolutely.
So I know a lot about that because I read a lot about it in the last several years. A bit less on the more ancient Greeks, Romans. But yeah, it's definitely on the cards to answer the question.
So should we actually jump on to question 5, just because that's where we were heading anyway? So is there anything you can tell us that is on the horizon for Black Seas? I don't know if you've got the list yourself, but there's a bracket there, because I don't know if that's something we can talk about. But I know there's stuff going on.
I don't know if I can, but I will.
There we go.
So nobody's going to stop me.
Well, it was a good run, folks. I enjoyed it.
As I was saying, there's a compendium / supplement that I need to finish, and as soon as I finish, it will be after it goes through all the process of being laid out, being checked, being proofread. So it's not an immediate kind of thing, and then printed, but it will be a printed book. It has a name, but it will mostly be a collection of the wealth of material that is already out there. Yeah, that I've mostly, but not mostly. It's in fact not mostly. That some of it I have written, and I've got a couple of guest authors which are really, really talented, and I'm excited about that, especially to write more about the historical side of things. It's writing, coming up with rules, and game design is one thing that comes quite easy to me. And the actual literary side of things it comes less easy, and and therefore I have some really cool people that will be helping out, and so it'll be a multi-hand kind of affair.
Okay.
There will be a significantly redesigned campaign system.
Ooh, nice.
Okay.
So the campaign system that is Smuggler's Run, which currently you can download from the Facebook page and you can play. It's basically a significantly enhanced version of that.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Simplified in certain areas so that it can really, you should really be able to jump on it and play it. There is a lot of new scenarios, some of which have been presented before that you can play, some of which are tweaked, some of which are brand new. Our head of trade sales suggested to create a solo set of rules, which is not a set of rules. It's more like a set of scenarios that you can just basically play on your own against the game, so to speak. Because mostly driven because of this lockdown and COVID, and hopefully we'll never be in there. But actually, I don't think it's a bad idea in general. Just if you want to have a game on your own, and you
Yeah.
happen to be in the house, and it's a fairly easy thing to do.
I think as well,
So-
those are really good for learning the rules. Because one of the things I actually did over the first lockdown was a couple solo games of a different system, and just having that there. Just reading a rulebook's one thing. A lot of the time you go, I can't visualize this, or how does that work in context? Suddenly, just putting some models down, even if you are just rolling against basically a preordained matrix of enemy behaviors, it suddenly goes, that's how combat works. Now I've
Yeah.
actually wrote down a couple times, I've caused some damage, taken some. It clicks now. So when you actually go play another human being, whenever that may be, you're only having to be worried about being around humans again, which is what I've been scared about for months.
Yeah, so there's that. There are some, as people might or might not know, the rule system of Black Seas has the core rules, and then it has several additional rules that you can bolt on, as many or as little of these rules as you want.
Mhm.
So there's several new additional rules that you can bolt on
Mhm.
and play with. Specifically, there's also amongst these, there's a way that allows you to play in a previous era of
Okay.
Black Seas. It just has, do these small tweaks,
Yeah.
and then you can play with ships from a previous era. And you never know if I might just sneak in there. Maybe one model that allows you to actually that you'll be able to buy, and maybe,
There you
maybe
go.
a galleon of some description. But
Ooh.
you never know. You never know.
Yeah.
So there's also more of a tournament system, a suggestion on how to
fantastic.
play a tournament.
Yeah.
With several dedicated scenarios specifically for a tournament. So it's not. So it'll be more of a collection of resources and different ways to play, and additional stuff, additional rules. Which it's and history on new navies, which I forgot. So
nice.
we're looking to introducing special rules for quite a lot of different navies. Actually, I can't remember them all, but there's definitely the Russians in there.
Oh, cool.
The Ottomans are in there.
Nice.
There's Swedish. On top of having new captains. Well, they're not some new and some that have been seen already for the main four powers. So it's going to be a wealth of stuff if you want.
Yeah.
I am currently at 78 pages and counting. So there is quite a lot. It might have to be cut down. I don't know.
It's going to be the finest print we've yet used at Warlord. We've got to use a magnifying glass or a microfiche.
The title will be Stand Fast with an
fantastic.
exclamation point.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So,
that's a cool title. I like that a lot.
yes, it's one of my favorite.
So it sounds
sayings.
like you're really kind of interested in bringing new game styles to the basic framework of Black Seas. Is that fair to say? That you've got the basic framework and now you just want to expand off it into different ways to play the game?
Yeah, so when you say different ways, there's Black Seas is an extremely scenario-driven game. So by having a specific scenario and having specific rules that are only in effect in this scenario, you can dramatically change the way that the game plays for that scenario, and then you go back and play in the normal way. So in that, to that respect, there are a lot. There are literally, I think there's 12 and counting of just purely new scenarios, and then on top of those there is, I think, 2 or 3 solo ones, and then on top of those there's the 4 that you play with that are dedicated with the campaign. not the campaign, with the tournament system.
Mhm.
And there's about 2 or maybe 3 that are specifically created for the campaign system. So as you can see, it starts becoming quite
Yeah.
varied
Yeah.
world and an addition to the way that you can approach Black Seas. On
Nice.
top of this, on top of you were asking me as a general question, what's offered? Everything is coming out for Black Seas that hasn't yet come out.
Hey, there we
The
go.
only question is when. And
Okay.
it's not if. It is not an if. We have seen renders. Well, I have seen renders for second rates. I've fourth rates, sixth rates.
Oh wow!
Just
Really
had
going down to the
debates
nitty gritty.
Yeah. It's they are in various stages of being designed, sculpted, paint. Some of them are being painted. It's the normal process. Razid ships.
Nice.
Oh wow!
We're gonna have some of them. We're gonna have different third rates, the small third rates.
Oh wow!
Hopefully, we'll have my favorite ship in the whole wild universe, which is the HMS Agamemnon.
Nice.
Which is a small third rate. It's a 64 gunner. And basically, fire ships. Did I say fire ships?
You didn't yet.
Wow.
You have now.
That's gonna be really fun to paint, actually.
It's no, it won't. It's a ship.
Yeah.
In fact, the fire bit of it will be achieved with what I think it's an amazing representation on the tabletop of fire, which is the wool that you get in the game.
Okay.
So
yeah.
you're gonna buy the 3 fire ships, and then you're gonna get the wool to glue on top or model on top, so that will be the fire. So no painting of fire.
I love painting fire. I really do. One of my weird ones.
What you can do is paint the glow on the ship with non-metal, not non-metal. What's it called? With the glow
object
kind of
source
effect.
lighting.
That's the one.
All right, you've set a challenge now.
You like young whippersnappers
You
doing
hippies
this kind of
and your airbrushes.
this weird source light painting that I don't understand. I'm too old. But no, it looks really cool though. So that's something that can definitely be achieved or tried.
Yeah, tried's the key word there, I think.
So the question is not what's going to come out. It's everything is going to come out.
I'm so glad you've just said that, because obviously me and Marcus work customer services, our day jobs. The amount of times we've been asked that, and we're always kind of like, maybe it'll come out. We can't confirm anything. I'm just going to cut that clip, I think, from now on and just send that whenever someone asks.
The question is when is Warlord has
lots of games.
And we love them all. We love them all of them, and we want to support all of them equally, and that's impossible.
Yeah.
It's literally impossible. The amount of resources that we should have.
We need a studio for every game to achieve that kind of thing.
Which is unrealistic. So there's a plan. It's in the most capable man's hands that I know, which is Paul. I trust him with my life, and he kind of decides when things are done. So even if we might have something sculpted at a very early stage, it might be several months before it sees the light of day, because other things have been done in the meantime. And there's a grand plan behind it all. So I really defer to him, but it's not a matter of if. It's a matter of. It's only a matter of when.
Nice.
And what I've seen is amazing. All the new ships will be done by Mark Keenan.
Okay.
I just couldn't be happier. He's
nice.
He's a great lad and a great sculptor.
Nice.
I think it's a really interesting to see that, as Max said, a lot of the time we're like, well, maybe we'll do that, maybe we won't. But it's really interesting actually to see just inside that thought process of being, probably the main guy behind the game, how much input now, that you've released the game, you're working on this compendium, how much input do you have when something goes to the studio for a model, for example? Are you kind of saying, are you there speaking to Paul and going, oh, we should do something like this for gameplay reasons? Or is it just, here's a list, let's do them all at some point?
Okay. In terms of Black Seas, I have been blessed by Paul basically saying, I don't know much about naval wargaming. I know even less about Napoleonic naval wargaming.
Wow.
There you go. You do it. So
that is pretty special.
It is special. It's also a lot of pressure, and also it's all my fault. It's all my fault. I can't say, no, it was Paul who did it. No. So I briefed the sculptors that have Marco's worked on the earlier ships. So I was working quite closely with Marco. And recently I brief Mark. We kind of agree. He does a lot of the research himself, to be fair. But we kind of go backwards and forwards between me and him. And a lot of the time, Paul is kept out of it. We try to CC him in the communication, but I'm not sure he even is that bothered of being involved. Eventually he is. So once we agree it, and then Mark will send me some design. I say, actually, this is brilliant, and I don't like that bit.
Yeah.
Backwards and forwards. And then it will eventually go to Paul, who then puts his seal of approval, looks it over, and kind of checks it out. So he is involved at that stage. In terms of rules, is pretty much the same, and writing. We do have a brilliant editor who comes up with good suggestions and way to write things in order to make them
clear, legible.
Better.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because I know this will come as a shock to everybody, although I think I've said it before. I'm not English. I'm Italian. So writing yes.
Come off it.
So writing a book in a language that it's not my first language is it's not the easiest of things.
I think we've had more Italian guests on than any other national. The Italians have cornered this market.
only the better ones, Max. Only the better ones.
Gabrio throwing down the gauntlet to every other Italian that works at Warlord.
You mean Lorenzo?
Lorenzo works with us 9 to 5. He refuses to come on here. He's done.
Lorenzo gets paid to talk to us, so I don't think he'd ever do it for free.
No. Is he there now?
I think he is still in the chat. Let me just check.
He's definitely he's working at home, I think, as well.
Working, quote unquote, because he's in the chat, and I think he mentioned he was going to be doing a few other bits and bobs. But I'm not going to blow his cover and reveal his secret identity.
No.
Yeah,
but hello, boss.
He's great. Great
so
guy,
coming back to the pre-arranged questions, what are your personal favorite fleets to play in various games, if you have a favorite?
Yes, in Cruel Seas, it's the Americans, because I tried to play with the Italians, and I painted and modeled this beautiful version of the Gabbiano class ship, and got teased mercilessly. And basically, whenever I field it, it's a quite a powerful ship to field. Whenever I feel that the game stops to becoming, let's try to win this game, and it becomes, let's try and sink the Gabriano, which is what they call it. Yeah, John and Bernard, especially in the play testing, it was actually, did you bring the Gabriano? Yes. Well, let's forget about playtest. Let's sink the Gabriano, and that was basically what they tried to do all the time.
It's Warlord's version of Sink the Bismarck.
And it's such a beautiful model, and I painted it, and I modeled the little men on the decks, and it just sinks every single time. So it's like, but it's really either Italians or Americans. I just have I have this is going to sound really bad, but I have a love for Americans. I play. I've got quite a significantly big army of Americans for bolt action.
Nice.
And when I play tested the rules with Mark Latham back in the day, I completely painted and rigged a fleet of Americans
Nice.
Wow.
of the Napoleonic era. And in Cruel Seas, it's those the MTBs and it's so whenever it's, I don't know why, whenever there's a question of who to go with historically, I always side with the Americans.
Fair enough.
This is just to this. I'm in my house, so this was the Christmas gift from Ruben, my son.
Hey, nice.
Which is a much larger scale than the normal scale that we play at. But he modeled and painted this beautiful Sherman.
Nice.
Just because
Nice.
I just as I said before, it sounds bad, but I love Americans. What can I say? It's just, I just love them.
Hey, I'm an American Army too. I got a lot of love for the Americans.
I think everyone's got one nation. I mean, I'm mostly Germans, although our colleague Connor, who was on...
Of course he is.
In fairness, our colleague Connor, who was on playing Max last week at Victory at Sea, he's actually set himself a challenge, which is to do a German army for every system we make that has Germany in it, which I just think is insane.
It's great. That's what I'm saying.
You got to have a project, even if it's insane and self-damaging. But I think we all have one. Gabrio, I'm actually curious off the back of that. You say you like to play Americans in other games, and that's just got me thinking. Obviously, Warlord sells one other naval war game. I don't know if you had any input on that one, but if you gave Victory at Seas any goes, because obviously being a naval buff yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So Victory at Sea is an amazing game. I love it. I haven't yet dabbled with it. It's on it's on my wish list if you want some things to do. But I mean, it's we're all kind of hobby butterflies, if you want. And at the moment, I'm doing so many things that all kind of take me away from what I should be doing, which is writing the supplement. Which is so if I were when, because I am going to do it, I know it, it's just a matter of fact. So when I am going to collect a fleet for Victory at Sea, it's undoubtedly going to be Americans, without a shadow of doubt. It's just already decided. I just have to buy them and paint them. They're quite easy to paint, actually. But yeah,
the dry brush is your friend at that scale, I found.
I've got several things. Just one thing that is pulling me out, and this is not really war game related, because I do like I just have to show you this. Because
he's walking out again.
He's leaving. It's done.
Oh wow!
It's a model of a Spanish third-rate ship, which is kind of big.
What scale is that besides very, very big?
It's just very big. I'm not sure what scale is it. I can't remember. I can tell you in a second.
And is that all in wood or is that plastic?
No, it's wood. It's wood. It's one of those that this is the kit.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
It's a bunch of wood. Yeah, this is. I might be revealing a bit too much of my inner nerd here, but
we do it on a weekly basis. Join us.
Yeah, I think that's why people like us. We make them feel cool and unnerdy.
Yeah, like's a strong word. They witness.
They tolerate.
So this is the San Juan Nepomuceno, which is a Spanish ship, third-rate ship of the line.
Nice.
I can't remember what the scale, but it's pretty big.
Oh yeah.
It's much bigger, and it's a canoe.
And I've been trying not to do it, but because it's obviously not wargaming and it's not Black Seas, but it's one of those things that, I just love doing it. So.
I mean, we're never going to judge. Me and Marcus spend far too many time playing video games, so at least you're doing modelling.
Yeah.
So I don't even know how I got into that topic of conversation.
It's interesting because like the last prepared question we had, you've kind of answered a bunch of times because we were going to ask you, are you all about, all the little modeling details and rigging and getting everything perfect, or do you go simple? I think we can safely say
a stupid question in hindsight.
Yes, having said that, you have no idea how complicated, because I've done one wooden plank, wooden plank ship before, and it is as faithful as a reconstruction of the actual rigging on a real ship as you can get. I'm sure it's not 100%, but it definitely works. So the other one I did, you could pull the ropes, and you could just get everything to go up and down as it should be. So
that's insane.
So I don't know. Is that a high level of detail? I don't know.
Kind of following on from that, what we occasionally get asked, and I know that when I looked at the rigging guide in the Black Seas rulebook guide, I just kind of put the book down for a little bit and went later.
I donated my ship to Gabrio to do on a video for me.
So you're pretty experienced, I think it's fair to say, in the ways of rigging Black Seas ships.
Yes.
What kind of tips and tricks and cheeky little cheats have you got for people to get that looking right without going absolutely insane and super gluing everything in your house to yourself?
Okay, first of all is have a go, because it's not actually as difficult as it looks. Secondly, you need a toothpick and some super glue.
Right.
So if you're struggling to go and tie a little knot and do exactly the way that you should be doing it on every single point, a slightly cheat if you want, but I don't think it looks that much difference, is to make the lines taut and then dab a little bit of super glue on the tip of a toothpick and just sealing that when you go around the mast once. So you don't even need to tie it, just go around the mast once and then dab a bit of glue. The glue will soak into the actual thread and it will attach it to the mast, and that's it. You don't need to worry about it. Then you can go to the next, do the same, then go to the next, do the same, rather than going tying a knot in a certain way and then so that is a little bit of, if you want, a cheat, but it might make the knot, the rigging, if you're looking at it really close, not look perfect. But to be honest, very, very rarely that you just take a ship and look at it really closely. Most of the time you're looking at it on the table and it looks brilliant from a distance. So that's what I would say. Just go for it. And furthermore, you don't have to do the whole rigging that is in the book. I've got a book here actually, so
I think I have as well.
Yeah, you've got our office copy, Max.
I got the fancy copy. I got a limited edition one.
Yeah. The doing the rigging is actually useful because it's it gives a structure to the masts, which otherwise are really easy to bend.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, it does exactly the same job that it did on the real ships, as it they just strengthen.
They're so accurate, they need rigging authentically.
It strengthened these massive pieces of wood that were sticking out for a considerable length, that otherwise would just be wobbling all over the shop. So you're actually making the model itself a lot more rigid. And even just doing the first couple of stages, and without going from right to left, so you avoid stage 3, and from stage 4, 5, and 6, you're only going across the model. So even if you're just going in the center of them, even that, which should be easier than doing the other way, even that is going to help the rigidity and the look of the model. So it is something that is more intimidating, I think, than once you just try. And then once you have the first, the second, the third, I mean, I find it therapeutic to rig. It's just one of those activities that require a lot of attention. I usually put something on the screen, like on some kind of TV series, or and listen to it, because you can't watch it. So you listen to people talking, and then you're there doing the rigging, and it's I find it relaxing, to be honest. It's something that it's frustrating at times, because I try to do all the knots and stuff, and sometimes it just don't work. And that's when I then glue it, and so there you go. And it's not frustrating anymore.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. I think when people are used to working in 28 mil, suddenly not only is it tiny, you're now messing around with strings. I think a lot of people, looked at it and went, "That's intimidating just off the back of that." 'Cause that's certainly was my reaction when I first saw it. But no, I suppose you're right. It's no less fiddly than something like a fiddly decal, which I think most hobbyists wouldn't even bat an eyelid at, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's very true. And also, I mean, I was very insistent in putting a small reel of thread, which is a very special thread. It's an acrylic thread, which if you use just normal cotton thread, it frays like no end. So you can see the thread, and then it just goes like that. And the second a little bit of dust goes on it, you'll just have it's just so noticeable.
Yeah.
So it needs to be a very specific type of acrylic thread, which you can buy, but it's quite expensive for what you're getting. It's like £5-6. You get a bit real of it, but it's still £5 just £5 just for some thread.
Yeah.
So I was very insistent that the ships should, when you get them, you get for free, essentially, the cotton thread. No, not cotton. It's not cotton. I just said
acrylic thread.
The acrylic thread. So, that just to allow you to have a go, essentially. And if you buy 2 or 3 kits from us, you'll never want for more cotton. Not cotton, for more thread anymore.
You will want for more cotton explicitly.
You'll have so much of it that you really don't. You won't need anymore.
That's in fairness, that's really nice to kind of get the perspective in there of someone with expert experience in doing it, to see why things are the way they are on the ships. You kind of sit there and go, well, that's, compared to a lot of our kits, it is an extra complicated step, but to hear that it actually makes them stronger is really interesting. I genuinely hadn't even considered that.
Yeah, I would invite everybody who isn't already on there to go on our Black Seas Facebook page, because I am on it as much as possible and try and answer every time I am summoned, so to speak. Try and answer. However, the community is brilliant. So if you ask for some advice on rigging, you'll have lots of brilliant people who probably can rig a lot better than me, giving you just as much advice. So I would, if you're not on there already, I would recommend you to go and check it out, and subscribe to the group, because it's a fantastic bunch of people on there.
Yeah, that group's really good. I was a bit worried that this episode of the Twitch wasn't going to be very good, because normally when we get a guest on, it's also someone we don't see very often. I'm like, Gabrio's in the comments all the time there. Everyone's going to be like, oh, Gabrio, I've already spoken to him every week. So I don't know how the viewing figures are going to turn out for this one.
It's been interesting, not a stunningly enormous number of questions coming through, but I think it's mostly because Gabrio's just been answering stuff before
beating us to the punch.
One good one that I did see from Haggard, one of our regulars, hi Haggard, is obviously Armada, which came out, which we're selling. As I understand it, that's based off Black Seas as a system, kind of adapted by our friends over at Mantic. Was that something you had a hand in at all, Gabrio, or was that something that they took your system and did their own thing with it, and you just kind of went, here you go?
I did not have a hand in it, unfortunately. I had other things that I had to do. However, they did. Ronnie approached me, and he said, this is what we'd like to do. So it's been agreed between Warlord and Mantic.
Yeah,
that they could basically use the rule system. I think they've credited Warlord and me for the main part of the rules. Yeah, because essentially they're the same rules, and then they've just they bolted on this kind of fantasy element to it.
Yeah.
So no, unfortunately, in a way, I would have loved to. And in another way, the time it is what it is. So
yeah.
Bear in mind, I do work for Warlord, and designing game is not my main job. No, it's not my job at all. In fact, it's like I do something completely different. It didn't come to any kind of my personal involvement on top of going, this is the rule system. Just go ahead. And they did a fantastic job, to be fair to them. And the ships, they look suitably cartoony and fantasy, which I think suits the kind of genre. And it's a great. They've taken the system into a great kind of side alley and made it look really good.
Awesome! I'm glad to hear it.
There was one question on the Facebook group, I think.
Yes.
Do you remember what it was?
So there was a couple. So one I'm just going to answer myself because I actually know this one. And this is one we get asked a lot. So this is Pascal asking... So we asked it in French, but the question is basically, will the book be published in French? And I know that the long-term goal answer that I've heard for basically every book that Warlord Games does is, given the long run, assuming we keep growing as a company, we basically want all our main system rule books and all like the core army books for something like Bolt Action to be available in multiple languages. It's a case of when, because we can't just plug it into Google Translate and still have it legible out the other side. So it's a case of, as in general, at some point we'd like to do all of them. I don't know if Gabrio, you know anything specific on this, but that's
I don't know. No, that's what you said is bang on. One thing I'll have to say: sometimes it depends on the initiative of some talented in-country, in-situ person/company. That basically approaches us and says, I want to do this. For example, Black Seas have been translated in Spanish. And,
has it? Wow.
Yeah, we have a Spanish version of it, but not because we did it. It's because we've been approached by a company who said, can we do this? And we said, absolutely.
Do we sell it in-house, or? Because I've not seen that.
We do.
No way.
Excellent.
Shows I worked in mail order for 6 months.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Wow. So there was one other question. So I don't really understand this one because I haven't played the game much. But this is from Paul. And I quote, critical hits are scored on a roll of 1, meaning the harder it is to hit the target, the more likely the hit will be a critical. Has there been any discussion about alternative critical mechanics and that would make the chances of a crit scale with the difficulty to hit?
Yes. So do you understand, Max, what just to make sure that the point made, which is something that I have considered during the design phase of Black Seas. So it definitely has been thought about back then.